I'm recording. It is just a pleasure to have everybody here. And you know what, though? There's three.
This starts the podcast.
It's 3 against 1. I'm just telling you straight out of the bat. It's 3 against 1. Bald hair.
Well, hair wins every time. Wait a minute. You all have facial hair, so that's not even a thing.
It's all right. It's all right. We're all the same here. We're
setting this. I love it. We're setting the stage, and this is all going to tie in together. I love it that we're all kind of catching on. I was going to make reference to the bald thing, Mark Alexander-Erber.
3 brothers, 1 sister.
That too. Oh my, we'll come up with a name for our spin-off podcast soon. But welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. It is Brando episode. I think it's episode 195. Yeah, because last time.
Nice.
Mark,
nice.
Thank you, Mark and Kristen Tully from Golden Robot Records were on the last episode that we did on Zoom. Hence the really engaging our physical attributes here. Otherwise, we'd just be on the phone, and now it would just be weird. We're just guessing what we're wearing or what we look like.
Or not.
But before I go off on some weird tangent, as usual. So Mark and Kristen are back here from Golden Robot, and they brought back another Golden Robot roster. I was going to say roster mate, but that doesn't make sense.
Artist, legend.
Artist, sure. That probably would be the human word. Because we've had on Hookers and Blow with Dizzy Reed, Alex Rossi. They've talked about, of course, their other projects in addition to Hookers and Blow. But I'm always excited to hear from Alex. And he put me in touch with Mark. And since then, we've had, even before that, actually, Hillbilly Harold, who's on Golden Robot. We've had, Richard Fortis, which we're going to talk about. He's featured on, I guess,
it's not
Golden
one of
Robot.
the songs that's on Golden Robots.
Yeah, so that's where my brain went.
Gilby.
Yeah, it was Gilby, and there's more. Who else? Am I missing?
Silverthorne, Brian Tichy.
Yes. I had Brian Tichy, who filled in for. He was so funny. He's like, I filled in for Velvet Revolver once. Why do you want to talk about it? Because I never filled in for Velvet Revolver. I want to hear it. But today they were nice enough to bring along a guest via Zoom. So you may be watching this on Zoom, on social media, or listening later on a podcast. But there are 4 of us in this Brady Bunch, 4, and in the lower right quadrant for me, it's pretty awesome. It's almost like looking in a mirror because you're bald, glasses, and a beard. But you have a better tan than I do.
Quite handsome, just like you. Quite
very handsome.
You're a good-looking man, Frank.
He is.
And I got to say this before I make this even more awkward. And this is actually one of my first questions. I promise I would ask fans. I would ask this: how do you say your last name?
Ferrer or Ferrer.
Ferrer.
If you're Latino, is Ferrer. If you're Anglo, it's Ferrer.
Ferrer. All right. I don't want
to Ferrer.
I don't want to butcher the Latino spice to it, so I'll just did the Anglo away. Frank Ferrer. Frank, this is awesome. I feel this is a long time coming. I was telling you off the air that I wanted to come down and meet you because you're often in New York City and a stone's throw away from where I work at iHeart, one of our locations, and you're playing with your other band, Mule Kick, at Arlene's Grocery. And normally I'm doing the Keith Sweat radio show behind the scenes, which is much different than what we're doing now, Sweat Hotel, but that's a company plug, so they'll appreciate it. So I can never make it down, so I appreciate that I get to see you, though, via Zoom. This is better than a phone call. Nice to meet
you. Hopefully you come down to one of those soon. Hopefully they'll be happening soon. Hopefully everything's happening soon, but yeah, you could come down.
We will.
Good time.
And we will, and just a special hello to our mutual. He's more of your friend. I met him a couple times. He's really nice. Tommy London, who people may just see and like, who is that guy that looks like Johnny Bravo? Well, that's
Johnny Bravo. That's great.
That's Tommy. Yeah. So
I have to call him Tomas Londres.
First thing I got to ask is I know you're a local New York guy, but you're not in New York, so. Where are you located, and are you safe? Are you okay? How are you?
I'm totally safe. I'm out in the desert in California. I moved out to California in 2018. Lived in LA for about a year or so, and then I bought a home out in the desert. I'm near Palm Springs, Coachella. So yeah, super safe here. It's quiet. There's not a lot of people out here. Okay. So it's great. Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, my whole family's back east. obviously, because my kids live in New Jersey and stuff like that. So, usually I go back home once a month or back to the East Coast to hang out with them, or I fly them out here like I did for Christmas. But with the flying and the planes and everything's kind of weird right now. So I've been just, staying at home, quarantining, so hopefully I get to see them soon. But yes, thank you very much. I am safe here in the desert.
That's like the first thing I heard, and I think I said this to you, Kristen and Mark. It's the new hello is how are you? Are you okay? And the new goodbye is stay safe. It's just a different world.
It could be worse. More like my mother, typical Jewish mother, when she calls you, the first thing she says to you is everything all right? Actually annoying. Yes, everything's all right. It's like it's a negative. Is everything all right? Yes, it's fine.
That's why I have to explain to so many people why I am the way I am, because that's how it is. Like, are you okay? Because I don't know, I care about you. Even though I just met you, I want to make sure that you're safe and sound. Because why the move though? I mean, is that more convenient for you? Because I don't know, as a New Yorker, I don't know if I can handle the pace of LA. I've never been out there.
I've been dying to move to the West Coast for a really long time. I worked on a project here in 2000, and I actually lived out here for the whole year that project was on, and I just fell in love with it. And at the time, the circumstances it wasn't the right climate for my whole family to move out. So I went back home. But since 2000, 2001, I've been dying to move out to the West Coast. I just love the culture. I love the heat. Believe it or not, I'm a New Yorker, man. I cannot stand the cold anymore.
I know.
And I was cool until I bought a house. I used to live in apartments. I grew up in apartments my whole life, so somebody else was shoveling the snow, and the apartment.
Yes.
In New York City are really warm. They're always super warm. But once we got a house, we bought a house in New Jersey. Man, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it.
Get the snowblower out.
What was that?
Get the snowblower out.
Oh my God. I mean, if there was snow where you needed to use a snowblower, I would not leave. I wouldn't leave the house. Stay home.
Yeah.
That's
going to school today. I'm not doing nothing. I mean, I couldn't. But so yeah, and obviously Guns N' Roses has given me the opportunity to move out here, so yes, I am closer to the band here, and closer to my bandmates, So yeah, so it was just the right opportunity to make the move, so I jumped on it.
right on. And I'm with you on the winters. I know global warming, whether you believe it or not, whatever's going on, it's terrible. But you know what? Right now, I can deal with not the snow. I'm okay with whatever happens to my great-great-grandkids. I don't really, maybe that sounds wrong, what happens to them. But I'm cold now, and it snowed for like 5 minutes out in here in Queens the other day. Like, I don't know what's going on. But
yeah, all my buddies back east are telling me it's still cold there, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be 80 this weekend. So I don't know what Mother Nature, what drugs she's taken, but she needs to stop. I wondered, let's talk about the normal times though. Where in New York did you grow up? Because I said to myself, and we'll preface it with what we were talking about before, how there's 3 bald guys on the call. My hair was, I wanted to be like Kristen, maybe that was kind of my girlfriend said I made her watch for the first time the Ritz show, 1988 show for GNR.
Right.
And she's like, she didn't like how effeminate Axel was, or whatever that aura. I'm like, that's what I looked until how I went bald. And she's like, I like you bald. I like the beard. Anyway, but I saw how good Frank looked bald and with the beard, so I got the courage to shave it all off. Anyway, where did
you choose to be bald though? Are we choosing this? Like Frank,
No.
If you didn't shave, you'd have hair.
It looks so good on him though.
I mean, it wouldn't be big and it wouldn't be thick, but I mean, it'd be like, it's kind of thinning on top, so I just shave it.
It looks so good.
The thing about Frank is though, I've been to dinner with Frank a few times in LA. We always have our favorite spots we go to. That one we went to last time, that Formosa, that was awesome.
Yeah, that place is great.
That was awesome. And he's a particularly good-looking fellow, and I can say that as a straight male. He's a particularly good-looking guy. And whether people know, I think the good thing about, I think if you're going to be in the biggest band in the world, this is my take on it, I think if you're going to be in the biggest band in the world, being the drummer in the biggest band in the world, I reckon, is the best spot. I tell you why. Because you're in the biggest band in the world, but you've also, people who know the band know who you are, absolutely, and you can't miss him. But you also have a level of anonymity as well. So you can actually lead I suppose you could tell me if I'm wrong, a somewhat, to a certain extent, normal life, just in the everyday life, that your neighbours know who you are and GNR people know who you are. But I reckon he's in the best position out of anybody, because he can have this incredible life on one point, but on the other side, you can completely switch off from it and be left alone. And I think that is perfect. Am I right or wrong?
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I love being able to be a regular guy. That's very important to me, you know. And also you could add that, you know, the focus is on really like the three main guys, really. So, you know, I mean, that takes a lot of pressure off of me, you know, off of me, not so much playing wise, but more like being out in public and stuff like that. You know,
I reckon playing wise, it'd put more pressure on you.
Well, I mean, playing wise is the heaviest gig I've ever had. Sure. But
we're gonna get
but you're absolutely right. It allows me to be like a regular guy. And
you know what, Brandon, and I'm not here to blow smoke to Frank, because I've known him for a while and everything's cool and we do things together. He is the nicest guy. I mean, you talk about, you know, we went to dinner the last time we were in dinner, Jagger, my son, was with us, who is an up and coming great drummer, and to sit there and I said this to Frank, I said, if your aim is to be in a rock band, he's got the best rock and roll drumming gig in the world, hands down. And to sit there with my son, who's a great drummer, and not at this level, because there's 17 years and Jagger's 17 and Frank's 39, and
this is the best Zoom chat I've ever had.
So many compliments.
I was getting better and better and better.
So many compliments. But to sit there with him and listen to him and Jagger talking about punk music and rock and roll and drum, he's
very knowledgeable, your son.
But you're such a nice guy. It's just, you know, and we talked about this before, Brandon, on some of the podcasts, you know, just to deal with this level of musician and level of nice guy. And it proves to me why guys like Frank get these gigs. Not only are they sensational players, that goes without saying, but they're good people. He's just a good person. And it just resonates. And I love that. And I feel honored to be in the position to be able to work with someone like that. That's compliments are done.
And that ties into, really, Mark, where I was going with that was, where I want to know where you grew up, you know, because it's so relatable, because you are just the regular guy. I'm like, that is a guy from my neighborhood who got the guns. He's in my favorite band. Like, I can't even imagine what he's going through, because I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're a fan in heart. Like, what is he going through? And it's like when you watch one of those sing competitions or whatever, you root for your hometown. It's like, I got a hometown guy in Guns N' Roses, you know. And I think I said this off the air also, when you were doing, I went to obviously a few New York shows. I'm doing the LJ thing along with you. I was like, yes. So
and Madison Square Garden is a special place for sure, 100%. You know, I mean, first off, you know, it's the most famous arena in the whole wide world,
the Mecca.
You know, my dad took me to go see Kiss there in 1977, and that's when I fell in love with rock music for sure. I was like, I'm doing that. I didn't know what they were doing. I didn't know how they were doing it, but whatever they were doing, I was gonna do. And I was 11 when that happened. So so I grew up in Chelsea, like where Madison Square Garden is. I grew up like 20 blocks away from Madison Square Garden. I grew up on 16th Street and 9th Avenue in the Fulton Projects. And I lived there. You know, I moved when I was like a teenager. I moved out of there and then lived in the Lower East Side, Midtown, Hell's Kitchen. You know, as a New Yorker, you try to stay at one rank bracket, right? And it only lasts like 1 or 2 years, and then you got to move somewhere else, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah, no, absolutely. So, were you moving around when you were you young? Like, how long did you live in New York? And is that where you created your scene in your?
I mean,
what kind of student were you? Like, if I can ask, were you?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I was in Chelsea. You're walking distance from you're around the corner from the Limelight that was on 20th Street. Snafus. You had, I mean, I was a little too young for Max's Kansas City, but that was right on 17th Street. I had the Palladium on 14th Street where I saw Eric Carr's first show.
Okay.
CBGB's was walking distance. I mean, everything was literally, if you want anyone you want to see, the Cat Club, I saw Jane's Addiction at the Cat Club, maybe 150 people was in that place, I mean, and, everywhere from an arena to a club was almost within walking distance from my mom's apartment.
Who was influencing you to go to those clubs and see the bands that you were seeing? Was it friends? Was it family?
Well, I didn't, how do I say this? So I grew up with a lot of Latino kids, a lot of Black and Latino kids. So most of them weren't really into rock. So
Okay.
I did a lot of exploring by myself. But once I found a group of people, I would meet up with them somewhere. But, back when I was a kid, you got your information from the Village Voice, Bleecker Bob's. Do you remember? How old are you, friend?
I want you to guess once. Can you guess? I was curious.
I would say you're like 30.
36. I'll be 37 in September. So, all right.
So yeah, so you're a little young. I mean, you would have been.
I know the Village Voice, which just ended recently, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. What was that, Kristen?
Village Voice still exists online.
Oh, does it?
Online. Okay, yeah, the print version.
Yeah, with the print version, you would get it was like the LA Weekly. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, you can find it out on the street in those little things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you
Not
found
familiar with
out
the other
about that, about bands through there. Bleecker Bob's is a great place because Bleecker Bob's will have like Kerrang magazine and all that stuff. So you would look at Kerrang magazine and they would get all the imports and yeah, man. CB's was a hot spot, man. You go to, CB's you just go. Maybe somebody cool's playing, maybe not, but you just go to CB's. Limelight, great. I saw Ace Frehley at Limelight. Kiss came down and did a bunch of songs with them. Just it's great. New York was perfect. My parents are from Cuba, and their intention was to build a house in Cuba. My father moved to New York. He was gonna make some money, send it back home. They were gonna build a house and live in a house in Cuba, and Castro happened. So they stayed in New York. I mean,
oh, wow.
That's the greatest thing that happened to me. That my parents decided to go to New York.
I mean, what could have been? What could not have been? I mean, it just goes to show you like those small decisions, or that's not a small decision at that time, but that's obviously a life-changing one.
Yeah.
So how did you find the drums? Why were you drawn to that? I mean, you were talking about Ace Frehley just now, but why? It's not guitar.
Yeah, no. I mean, of course, I try guitar. I mean, every kid that wants to rock picks up a guitar. But my father was a Latin percussionist, so rhythms were very, very easy for me. It was something I grew up listening to and hearing since I was born. So the drums were very natural. I had a great sense of rhythm when I sat behind a drum set. So pocket is the most important thing a drummer needs to be successful. Finding a groove, and thank God that's like my biggest strength is being able to sit in a groove. So it was easy. It was literally easy. And then you had to figure out because you would hear records and you're like, how the hell are they doing that? Then you would go see bands. You could go see somebody play the instrument. Then you're like, there wasn't YouTube. You actually saw the guy. So I ended up doing was like carrying equipment for drummers too, to get into gigs for free to watch them play.
Wow. Okay. So that's awesome that you were surrounded by it. Do you remember your first real band? Do you remember when you?
My first real band. I was in high school. I can't remember the name of the band. They were a cover band, and the bass player walked by my building one day, heard me playing the drums. I was in high school, so I might have been 15, 16. And he actually knocked on my door and he was like, hey, I live a block or so away. Can I bring my bass over and we can jam? And I was like, sure. I had never played with a bass player. I never played with another musician. I was like, you bet. So we started jamming together, and he was playing in this cover band. And I played a couple of gigs with them, one in Harlem. And it was all like dance music, because the cover bands were hired for dances, right? So
Sure.
it's pretty much
Bar
dance.
mitzvahs.
But that was my first. I was in high school still. That was my first paying gig. That was the first time I was like, wow, I can make. Because I would have done it for free, yo. You know what I'm saying? I would have done that shit for free. But it was the first time I made a little bit of money, and I was like, wow. You know? And then I had to convince my parents that I didn't want to go to school, which was like really difficult, you know.
Was that the decision then? Like, this is what I want to do with my life? Because I'm assuming they had different
I
plans.
knew what I wanted to do. Like I said, I was 11 years old when I found out what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to pursue it. And living my father was very strict. So living in that household, I couldn't live that kind of lifestyle there, obviously. It was get an education, have a job, you know, and I couldn't like go to school, have a job and play drums at the same time. It was really difficult. So I just kept my job and I kept the drums and I moved out.
Okay.
I tried school. I did a couple of years. I went to NYU for a year.
Okay.
2 semesters, and then I went to Hunter College for a couple of semesters.
Sure.
And you know, I just wanted to play music. I mean, I know education is very important. My older sister's a lawyer. My younger sister finished college. She was an executive at J Records for a while. So they're well educated, my sisters. But I just wanted to get out there and play. You know.
Well, I mean, you're well spoken. You sound educated. I mean, what's the formal education now anyway?
I'm dying to cuss though. I'm dying to cuss.
You can if you want. You know, it's not my me. You know.
No.
I love it. So how long has been, because like I said, I've wanted to meet you and come down before. I was actually shy about it. I go to Tommy. I was like, I just messaged him on Facebook. Like, can you introduce me to Frank?
Tommy's sweet, man. You know, Tommy's.
It's a good guy. Yeah. I'm jealous because he's friends with my crush, Lady Gaga. I'm like, you know her?
Yeah.
Can I just be near you? that was a little weird though. Kristen's laughing. That's okay. How long has Mule Kick been going on though? Because that seems to be a long running.
Started in 15, I think.
Okay.
So Mule Kick came about because one of my best friends in the world had this restaurant in Bed-Stuy called Beast of Bourbon, like that Australian band, right? Isn't that an Australian band called Beast of Bourbon?
Beast of Bourbon, yeah.
And that was the name of the place. And he was going to put I'm putting a blues band on Tuesday nights. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, a blues band. I mean, everybody, we like the blues, but come on, man. I'm like, you should put a fucking rock band up there that's doing a classic 70s. And he was like, put one together. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask 2 musicians that I don't get to play with a lot. 2 musicians that I love to play with, which is Rob Carlisle and Brett Bass on bass, who Brett Bass is also in Pisser, so we could segue there in a second. I mean, basically, Mule Kick is Pisser, basically. So, because Rob Cloris, the keyboard player, played on the record. And all the keyboards on that is Rob Cloris. So, I asked Rob Cloris, who's played with Black Crowes and a lot of heavies, if he was available to do this weekly thing, and I asked Brett Bass. And I was like, if either of those guys say no, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to do it. And both guys said yes. Now, Rob Bailey, who's also the guitar player in Pisser, I knew he'd do it. I knew he'd do it. I didn't even bother to ask him. I was just like, yo, we got a rehearsal on Thursday for this Mule Kick. We're like, all right. I knew but I didn't know if Rob Cloris or Brett Bass would be available. And thank God they were into it and they did it. And I mean, the main reason I did it was because it was a quiet time, you know, the whole Slash Duff coming back into the band, that whole quiet time after the pretty much the Chinese democracy version of Guns pretty much ended. And when they guys were getting that together, that took a long time to get together. So we were quiet as a band. And I wanted to play, and I tried to play around locally with some bands, but I was like, you know, I want to just keep my level of musicianship really as high as I possibly can. And those guys I played with in Mule Kick, who was basically Pisser, had that. You know, those guys are heavy players. And growing up in New York City, man, you had to be really good. You couldn't be okay. I mean, there was bands that kind of sucked. But it wasn't because those guys couldn't play. It was because they didn't have good music and stuff like that. You know, the songs. But you couldn't get up on the stage when I was growing up and not be a good player. You know? That's very different today. Today, you don't have to be a good player to get up on stage.
It's
when
interesting.
I was growing up, you have to be. You had to be.
It's interesting what you say. So if you're so let's talk about now. You're off the road for a little bit,
Right.
and you're out. Obviously, you've got drums out there. You've got something out there. Do you find that is it like a tennis player or a football player? You've got to keep that level of intensity.
I play drums every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
And when you play, are you doing rudiments or are you playing Guns N' Roses songs? Like,
I'll
what do you do?
Right now, I'm working on some double bass stuff just so I can get another part of my brain open. Not necessarily that I want to play it with the band or with anyone, but it's just something challenging, something that I've haven't really done in the past. I did it when I was really, really young, when everybody was doing it, Yeah. And then I stuck with single kick. But I'm working on double bass stuff. I'll work. I'll play along to a lot of Guns N' Roses stuff, especially the Chinese Democracy stuff, because Brain Mantilla, who played on the record, I mean, the drumming on that record is just so good, So I'll play a lot of that stuff too. And it's funny because Brain is out here also. He's out here in the desert. So
he's been on the show a couple times. He's awesome.
Brain has been on the show a couple times?
Yep.
Oh,
he is so great.
I'm going to go, as soon as we're done, I'm going to walk over and go see him.
Oh, tell him I say hello. He
Yeah.
owes me. He said, he doesn't owe me anything, but he knows he has to follow up because I wanted to have him on a third time because he's one of the most highly rated guests that I've had on these.
Dude, maybe we should do one together. We should do a drummers forum one.
Oh my God, you're going to give him a heart attack. He's going to get a heart attack.
We should get Brain and we should get a couple other drummers and do just like a drummer forum vibe,
Nice.
What do I have to do? I have to sign a contract to be your best friends. What do I got to do? Yes. No, that sounds great, Frank. We will just to show you I'm professional. We'll table that. We'll come back to that. But we want to focus on Pisser. See, I want to make sure I do you right this time. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we're getting to Pisser because we're talking about the guys in Mule Kick pretty much ended up being in Pisser.
And then you practicing because Mark is asking some great questions, and it's like, how do you? Because it's funny when people ask me, do I listen to podcasts? Because I'm part of one. No, I don't. I listen to music. And I listen to sports radio. So obviously there's not a lot of sports going on right now.
Okay.
So it's talking about all these athletes, how do they stay in shape and how are they going to get in shape? And, baseball is going to be 80 games. If basketball is going to have a 3-week playoff, how do you do that? So I often make sports comparisons to music. I've said Guns N' Roses are like the Yankees. I root for the uniform. I'm a fan of different, rosters. That's who I root for. You may have your favorite players, whatever, but I root for the emblem as I wear my Guns N' Moses t-shirt from Israel. I root
Is
for
it
the
Guns N'
emblem.
Moses or Guns N' Noses?
Moses.
Oh, Moses.
You can say that. You can say that.
Yeah, I've seen those.
I thought it said Guns N' Noses.
Moses.
I like that.
Horrible.
You could say that in this world.
I'm allowed to say it. I'm allowed to say
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's all right.
We'll call you Mark Alexander-Erber to make it really sound.
Erberberg.
Ergerberger. Sorry. This is going off. This is going crazy. So that's how you're keeping up to date with everything. So do you practice for X amount of hours a day? Because you say you do it every day. How do you?
I try not to practice more than 2 hours. I only have so much drumming left in this very young 39-year-old body.
Then what?
I don't want to burn out. But I play every single day though.
Brandon, if you knew how old Frank was, you'd just fall over. He looks so good. Like, seriously.
I know. I think I may have tweeted, as I have obviously a GNR thing. May have tweeted happy. Was your birthday recently? Wasn't it? Like
March 25th.
25th.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Isn't it like 50? Aren't you like 50?
54.
No,
54. Yeah. So
he looks amazing. And you know what?
But Kristen, you're saying don't say it. Don't tell her.
How are you? I would have guessed maybe 42.
Wow.
I would have guessed that, but like I said, I only.
And Billy Idol, who, not that they're old, but they're the same age as you, and you look a lot younger.
Yeah. And you know that's the end of your relationship with Billy Idol now because it's still recorded.
I love them.
No.
It's nothing against them. They know.
They look good.
You look like you're younger than me almost.
Billy's not 54.
No, but you
No.
know, all the other guys in the band are in their 50s. And
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me ask, since
You
you
look super young. That's all.
Yeah, but you know what, Brandon? You missed what Frank was saying. I'm telling you. Frank mentioned the night. Did you mention the nightclub in New York, the Twilight? You
The Limelight.
Limelight. I was just watching a Miami Vice episode. I loved
as
Miami.
one does.
As one does in lockdown. And they started the series 2 in 1985 or 86, and they were in New York. They did that big 2-hour special in New York. It was called The Prodigal Son, right? I mean, I loved Miami Vice. Anyway, Tubbs was in there talking to Crockett and said, "Hey, let's groove on up to the Limelight." And this was in mid-80s. So he sort of gave away his age there a little bit too.
Well, I mean, you can see it it's on Wikipedia and everything.
Yeah,
1966.
I know.
Until like 2004 or something, didn't it? It was open.
The Limelight.
Oh, that's right. No, right. It lasted till the 2000s. No, right. That's right. It did. They made that movie, right? It's that movie about it.
That doesn't really.
What's the movie? I wonder if I saw the movie.
Yeah, what movie? You're cutting out Kristen too, by the way.
I know.
You know,
Kristen's
your webcam
frozen.
is
Yeah, you
drunk.
guys are all skipping.
No, you're frozen. You're going to hate this because you're all frozen on a funny face.
He's teasing.
I'm teasing. Oh, look, that's even worse. Just turn your camera.
Oh, that's not a good one.
That's not a good one, Kristen. We've got to make sure we go live with this.
Maybe she needs to sign out, sign back in.
Yeah.
or put a smiley face over. That's too bad.
Kristen, kill your camera straight away.
I'll make it. I'll make it better.
Looks like she had a stroke. Anyway.
Oh God.
So we're talking about pisser.
Yes, and then you're practicing, but then that relates to, as we were talking about Frank looking young and practicing and everything. And you said you'll practice no more than 2 hours a day.
Right.
Well, Guns N' Roses shows are 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So how hard is it for you? There we go. Kristen's back. So how hard is it for you to go from the 2 hours, or can you do the 3? Is it that extra gear for a show?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I only practice. I try not to practice more than 2 hours because we play such long shows.
Yeah.
When we rehearse the band, rehearsals could be 5 hours. You know, if we're working on stuff, if they introduce a new song into the set, I mean, we could be at a rehearsal for 5-6 hours. I mean, we play. That's a lot of drumming. You know. So I try not to burn myself out, but that's the main reason why
Okay, the rehearsals are that much more. That's when you're like,
oh yeah. No, rehearsals will be, we do, the shortest rehearsal will be 4 hours, and like a long rehearsal will be 6 hours.
Okay.
I'm playing. It's not like just hanging out. I mean, we're playing. We're working on stuff. If like I said, if they introduce a couple of songs to the set, hey, let's try this song, or we haven't played this in a while, before you, how does that part go? I mean, that happens at rehearsals, and so rehearsals tend to be really long.
What's the body of songs? How many songs, if you go out on a typical arena tour, how many songs would there be that you could pick from for a different set?
I mean 40 probably.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
Probably 40. I would have to sit down and count, but I would imagine 40.
Crazy.
Who makes the final?
It's crazy.
And we play like 27 of them. We play almost all of them.
Yeah.
Do you have any say in the set list, or it's kind of like, here's the set
Me
list?
personally, I don't know about what say, but I can make suggestions. Hey, we haven't played this in a while, stuff like that. But it really comes down to like, what the band is really comfortable doing, on a certain night. Most of the nights, we'll have a certain set of songs that we'll do every night, but then there'll be, audibles. Hey, let's do this one tonight, or let's ready to do that one tonight. And if you're a fan, you could go through and see when we've played this song at this show, played that song at that show. Usually those are audibles.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite right now, or does it change?
Right. Well, I love "You Could Be Mine." I think it's the funnest rock and roll drum song I've ever played. I love the drum parts. The solo drum parts are dope. So that's I always get really up to play that. It's punk rocky. It's kind of has a AC/DC feel, but at the same time it has kind of like this punk rocky tribal thing at the beginning of it. So it's like I get to play all my favorite genres in one song. But I like Locomotive. We've done Locomotive once or twice already. That's a great song to play. You know, Coma's a fun song to play. It's a long song to play. I got to save my energy for that one when we play that one live. You know, that one takes a lot out of me to play. It's a great tune, you know.
Sure.
But I would say my favorite is definitely You Could Be Mine.
If I can ask, and I said this to you off the air, you can always plead the fifth.
Right.
You know, there's always like rumored set lists and everything that are out there. You never know if they're real or not, or Photoshop. We've seen some alternate songs. Like it did happen with Slither. We saw it on a leaked set list, and then it came in the set. So Slither happened. So
well, I mean, and that's the point I was trying to make before, was that, you know, there's a body of, right? There's like 40 tunes, and any of those 40 tunes could be played at a show. Not all 40, but any of those 40 tunes could be played at a show. So
can I ask, is what is the rumored hard school? Is that something that the band has practiced?
Well, I think I'll just wait till, you know, the band makes any kind of formal announcements when it comes to songs like that. That you know, any rumors, I'll just let the band make a formal announcement before I comment on it.
Yeah, no, that's fine by me, and that makes a good, nice, awkward transition back to.
It's not awkward. I mean, it's not awkward.
No, I know. I'm making it awkward.
And I'm just saying that you know, I'll let management and the band worry about anything about rumors. You know?
No, sure, absolutely. And I'm just making it awkward. And if you listen to the show when you come on again with Brain, this is again my Jewishness. I make it worse than it needs to be.
Brandon, it's not awkward.
It's fine.
Stop making it awkward, Brandon.
I can't. So how did your relationship? We'll talk more about GNR. We will. With Mark happen? How did that? When did your bromance kick off?
Mark, when did we meet first? I know we met before one time a while ago with.
I tell you how. Well, very, very early
I know
on.
we met a couple of times before.
We met when Rose Tattoo on the label. When Rose Tattoo supported GNR on the Australian tour, and I was at the Brisbane or Sydney show. No, Brisbane, I think it was. And the first time I met you, you were coming down the gangplank and at the back of the stage because Rose Tattoo were doing their sound check. And I've got a photo of it actually because we took a photo with Jagger. And that was great. And then that was the first time we met. And then Richard Fortis introduced me on email to Dizzy, like within that 6 months, saying, look, he's got this unbelievable what's it called? Rock and Roll Ain't Easy. It's on my wall there. Album that he's been holding on like a baby for 5 years. Not like a baby, but the album like a baby, like it's his newborn kid. And we released it for him worldwide. And so I started that relationship with him. And then with you, I think I was introduced to you, by somebody, another contact of ours, a mutual friend in Australia. And I think you just ended up joining us. And right. That's how we got. That's right. I was trying to figure out how we got connected. Yeah. But right. I mean, wait. I mean, Rick. Yeah. So we got introduced, and then it all went from there. And then every time I'm in LA, we do a dinner, or we've been out a few times in LA. We love Jones's up there on Santa Monica, best steak in LA, or one of the best steaks in LA. Jones. God, I can't wait to get back to LA. Jeez, I miss it. Yeah, you're supposed to be out here by now, right? 100%. I should have been there ages ago, and I just feel it's like what you said at the beginning. You know how you I reckon you either love LA, California, or you don't. And I absolutely love it. I think it's got the best elements of Sydney with the weather and everything else, but it's just got so much more than we have to offer here. But yeah, so we go out for dinner whenever we see each other, and in fact, we're working on now, we'll talk about it, we're working on a third single and for Pissa at the moment to come out, and a few other interesting things that we're doing and pushing it out worldwide. So it's fabulous that Frank's got the time, because one of the best things about Frank being on this is that Brandon can stop emailing me every week begging me to get Frank on it. So, almost every other, maybe. Yeah, maybe every other, maybe. You know, Brandon, just real quick, just to backtrack just a little bit. One of the main reasons why, and because Mark just touched on it. One of the reasons was because you get the energy
the same energy from New York or Sydney. You get that energy, but you get the sun and the beach. It's like it's the same energy, but the complete opposite of New York. You know. So that's why one of the reasons why was that.
It's slowed down. Like you can relate. Like I feel like I walk so fast because I'm a New Yorker, and people are always like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "Why walk?" You realize like how much we move and how our pace is so go go go, and you come here and you're like, "Oh, what the hell was I doing?"
I got that, just quick because it's boring about myself. But when I got my first radio job in Cape Cod, which is much different than New York, I was like that. People would smile at me walking past me on the street. What the fuck is your problem? They're just being nice and smiling at. And so I got that, and I actually did try to move out west or down south where snow does not exist. But radio is a funny business, and I got a good job now. So, I'm stuck in New York.
I do that all the time too. I'll go back to New York and I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey," and I'm like, "Oh shit, fuck, I'm in New York."
Don't look at the guy.
So
is Pisser a New York band? It's a New York band then.
I would say that it's a New York band. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, and it's just got a New York vibe.
Yeah. It's Lower East Side. I mean, one of the reasons I left New York was because of the grime. Pisser's grime, bro.
Yeah.
Grind.
Dirty grind.
Grind.
Well, with a name like that. Because I didn't know what it was because it's spelt PSSR. I thought it was a branch of communism. I didn't know it was Pisser. Sorry, I've been holding that joke. I was like, I'm gonna tell that to Frank, and hopefully he laughs.
Back in the PSSR, that'd be a good song.
Do it. So was that band in the works by the time you met up with Golden Robot?
That's why we met.
Yeah, that band, Richard Fortis and I were in a band that was signed to Sony in the 90s called Honky Toast.
Best name ever.
We did one record and got dropped just like everybody else, every other band in the whole wide world. And out of the ashes of Honky Toast, Pisser arose. Eric, the singer of Honky Toast, is the singer in Pisser, Eric Jacobson.
Okay. He's got a unique sound. It's I was trying because it really doesn't fit anything. So I want people to go in and to listen to it with an open mind. But it's like a Bon Scott meets Jet. Like it's just like an old school just rock, but with great choruses. And he doesn't have a
Bon Scott's
voice.
I'm a Bon Scott fanatic. So when I heard his voice, I was like, I'm playing with that dude. I'm a Bon Scott fanatic. I'm half Australian. You know that, right?
Say that again? Oh, you're half Australian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but which half?
Hello. Sorry.
Not bad.
Sorry.
Not
It's
bad.
a family radio show. I'm being. Seriously, I would say Bon Scott meets Iggy Pop. That's what Eric sounds like to me.
Yeah. Okay. I can hear that absolutely. That's a great description. Obviously, you're in the band. That's a great description. So you're talking about more singles, but the first one because Richard Fortis is on it. So right. Is he just on the lead single, or is he on the record, or was that just kind of like a? I don't know. How did it come together? I guess. Like, what can we expect?
I would consider Fortis part of the family. He's not in Pisser, but he's kind of in Pisser. Like he's played Pisser gigs, and he's come up and played with us at Pisser gigs. So okay. He's kind of like an extended arm, kind of like how Rob Chorus is also keyboards. It's kind of like another extension of Pisser. Like, he's not officially in the band, but he could come and play with us whenever he wants. Let's put it that way. Just like
he's on Busted. The first single, Busted, he was on, which you can get online now. Killer song, great song.
So I'm assuming that there were plans that. Like, how is it going to work out for you with Pisser and if Guns N' Roses and this whole thing, the world didn't end? What were the plans for Pisser this summer? And
well, the plans were to get together when Guns was down, obviously. Yeah. So, when we would take a break, I'd go to New York and we go do some Pisser stuff, That was the plan, and then whenever we take an extended break, then, do Pisser, as much as we can. But, the plan was to do both, That was the plan.
All our plans changed.
The one good thing, not that anything's been good about the lockdown, but the good thing about the lockdown, if you want to find something good, is that Frank can do this because normally he's on the road. And so
right now,
to get him for an hour is not always that easy. So we're sort of
not.
we're re-looking at a whole lot of things with Pisser at the moment, and we're looking to reignite a couple of things because Frank and the boys are available, which is really exciting because it needs to get out there, this band. It's a great, forget the connections, forget all that, forget the place. The music is fantastic, and it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Well, I hope you get back with the guys in Pisser and I get to hear more, because I know a lot of things are unfortunately on hold, but I'd be remiss if I didn't, bring up Richard Forrest again. Is he, forgive me if you've spoken about it in other interviews, but is he the one that suggested you, or did Brain suggest you? If you can kind of just tell us about your, how you came into Guns N' Roses and that story, if you could.
Well, obviously, well, not obviously. So I've been playing with Richard Forrest on and off in bands since 1992, I believe. We were in Loves for Love together, Honky Toes, Psychedelic Furs, Pisser. He played with Pisser. Bunch of local bands, other artists, Tommy Stinson, and that's how Tommy comes to the picture. So Richard played on Tommy's solo record, and then whenever Tommy would come in to do gigs in New York, he'd get local musicians. Tommy does that Tommy Stinson does that in different towns. So show up somewhere and have local musicians play. So whenever Tommy would come into the New York area, Richard would get me and another bass player who's actually played in Pisser too, Winston Roy, and we come and be Tommy's band in New York. So I was playing with Tommy and Richard while they were still working on the Chinese Democracy stuff. And then when Brain found out that his wife was going to give birth during the summer tour of 2006, right? I got that right. Those guys were like, "Hey, that's cool. We'll just get Frank to come in and play, a couple of weeks." It was literally like that. I didn't know this. They told me this afterwards, but pretty much I had the gig. It was my gig to fuck up. So those guys were like, "Yeah, no, we know the right guy." He's I think the main thing was like he smiles a lot. It was the main thing. He's an alright drummer, but he smiles a lot.
Was there like an audition process, or you just started live gigs, or
not so much a process, but yeah, I had to come and play with the band. Yeah, you bet. Man, that was right in New York. They were in New York rehearsing on 25th Street. So I went and played, and it was great. Brain was gracious, and the guys were wonderful. Tommy was there, great. Robin was great. Chris Pittman, everybody was really warm and welcoming. It was great.
What about when those 2 weeks were up? Because I'm assuming you were like, "Oh, I'm going to have this awesome experience for a couple weeks."
Well, I looked at it as it was just those 2 weeks. I didn't really think too much beyond the 2 weeks. All I wanted to do was ensure that there was a nice continuity when Brain got off and then I got on, right? So there was to be seamless, especially for Axel, because he's, now he's been playing with Brain for years. So, I want him to make sure that I was going to sneak in and sneak out vibe, and just keep the seat warm for Brain. I found out like a couple of weeks later that Brain was going to come. He wanted to stay with the kid. So once I found out that I was going to finish the tour, then I definitely settled in. But for those 2 weeks, I was just trying to play as much as like Brain as possible.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry, Brandon.
Please, no, go ahead.
And look, I don't know if it's the right question to ask, but I'm interested. And then, so you went from that version of Gunners, and then obviously it morphed into the current version of Gunners. Were you feeling when the original lineup started coming back, and that was all happening? I remember being in LA, and all of a sudden, I think it was Coachella, the original logo was up on Sunset, and it blew everybody's mind. I mean, I've never seen a band go from one version to another version like that and never miss a beat. I mean, it's never been done before, and it'll never be done again. But was there a point there where you thought maybe Stephen will come back or whatever? Maybe there'll be a point where that's it, or you knew you'd be always part of it.
I'm not too sure how to answer that because everything was really. I mean, I felt confident that I know Axel loved the way I played, and I feel like we're friends. I felt confident that Axel loved me and wanted me there. I felt that confidence. But, you know, there was so many interchangeable, everything was just moving around. So, I mean, I didn't know. I didn't feel like, oh man, that's my gig. By no means, you know. I mean, I had never met Slash before. I had met Duff. Duff has actually come and played with the Chinese Democracy version of Guns. He sat in for Tommy Stinson for a tour. So I knew him and I had we played really well together. We have the same sensibility. We come from the same fabric. He has a punk background. I have a punk rock background. So, but no, I mean, no, seriously. And I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you as honestly as I could possibly say. I didn't feel like this thing was like, until we played that first show at the Troubadour.
Wow. That's amazing.
That night I was like, whew, made it. That's how I felt inside, you know, all through rehearsals and everything, you know, because I mean, it's massive, dude. I mean, it's massive. It's everything about it. What was that?
Do you ever sit there and go like, wait, that's me?
Part of history.
Oh yeah, no. Every single night we play, yes.
It's amazing.
You look down and there's Slash playing. I mean, you're looking down and there's Slash playing there, dude. I mean, listen, I'm never gonna get to play with Eric Clapton or Jimmy Page. I'm never gonna get to play with Brian May of Queen. You know, I did get to play with Angus. I would have said that, but I did get to play with Angus. But I mean, I get to play with an icon. You know, we're talking about Mount Rushmore guitar player in Slash. Yeah, every single night. You know, every single night.
And you're part of an engine room. We were talking to Stephen Riley the other day on last week here on the podcast, and he was talking about his favorite engine rooms. And it's a great question for you because you are part of one of the best, and you and Duff, the drums bass there. What's one of the best engine? What engine room? You know, you've got the John Paul Jones and Bonham and that kind of setup.
Oh, that's what you mean by? Is that what you mean by engine
room?
room?
Engine room, yeah, bass and drums, the engine room of the band. You're part of one of the greatest engine rooms of all time.
Like your battery mate, I guess, like in baseball. You know, pitcher catcher.
Yeah, what's one of your favorite engine rooms that you look up to of all time?
Oh, geez, I got a couple. I mean, John Deacon and Roger Taylor. I mean, definitely, you know, as a rock drummer, it's got to be, you know, John Paul Jones and John Bonham, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's the way they're talking to each other. The drummer and the bass player are actually having a conversation.
Yeah,
it's insane. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. Who else? I mean, you're putting me on the spot a little bit right now, but I mean, Bonham and John Paul Jones is probably like, you know, probably
the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And by the way, so I'll preface.
I've never heard that term before.
Me neither. Prior to last week, Frank, I never heard of it either, but I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Cool.
That we'll use that as our phrase from now on.
You got to make a T-shirt of that.
Mark.
Yeah,
there you go.
Frank's Engine Room.
Right. TM.
That'll be the name of our restaurant in LA. Frank's Engine Room.
TM. Trademark.
Yeah, totally.
Can you like kind of reminisce a little bit on that show at the Troubadour? Because I was up late at night here in New York. Obviously, it was West Coast, and obviously I wasn't going, but I'm on my phone. You know, people are periscoping, whatever, and I'm watching it freaking out because for me, and I told you my age, I've never gotten to see Axl and Slash on stage together. And to me, it was awkward experiencing it through my phone for the first time, live. But can you kind of take us through that night?
I can describe it in one word, and I'm saying this with all due respect to Kristen, but I would say orgasm.
Wow,
it's the only word I could use. I mean, it's the only word I could use.
That's. I mean, how can you dissect that? I think we all know. I think it's the perfect word for it. Yeah. That was when Axl broke his foot, right?
Yeah. Wait, he broke his foot early in the set and played the whole show with the foot all jacked up.
Right. So can you
probably damage more? But yeah.
When did you notice when that happened?
I didn't notice at all.
Wow.
He was jumping around. I mean, watch the video. I mean, there's some videos that he was jumping around. I didn't notice it.
So when he told you after?
I thought it was swagger.
You know, I'll just say this real quick because Frank, I'm handicapped. I walk with a limp and a cane, but most people think because I don't act handicapped.
Right.
I've gotten more than one occasion a girl thinking I'm walking with swagger. Like that's just my thing. So I felt like, oh, when Axel broke his foot, he's walking with cane. I was like, see, now I'm my cane brother. I love it.
Cool, man.
I love it.
No, I didn't notice it at all.
Oh wow!
After the show.
Oh,
Is there? I mean, there's so many to pick from. Is there a show that sticks out in your mind? Was it possibly coming home to MSG in New York and playing?
MSG for sure. Even though we played MSG with the Chinese Democracy version of Guns, which was great. It was a great night. No, I was doing those 3 nights at the Garden. Well, you know, you were there. I had my LJ on. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, man. That's
What is it like?
That's it.
That's where you were a little
The credits
kid.
should have rolled. Like at the end of the movie, the credits should roll after that, right?
Yeah, totally.
I like that. No, that's awesome. And see, again, it's like someone from my hood living the dream, and that's just.
Yeah, my mom was there. My mom came. My father
awesome.
passed away a long time ago, but my mom was there, man. You know, so it was like, you know, it was an amazing treat. I mean, my whole family was there, but my mom was there. She got to see it. She's 88. She got to see it.
It's amazing.
I was like, "You want to come back to my?" She was like, "Nah." Just want to see you, and that's it.
Does she like the music that you play? Does she enjoy it?
No.
That's okay.
Really.
Well, at least you
That's
can prove
okay.
to her that you didn't need to go to uni or anything after school.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
Right? Look, Mom.
Yeah, see, I made it. Top of the world.
One of the questions I got to ask you was, what's the most, you said something, another interview that you are a groove drummer. That's what you consider yourself. So there's a lot of groove in GNR music, but what's the most challenging song that you think? What's the most challenging one for you?
That's a really good question. Because so there's 3 eras in Guns, right? So there's the Appetite with Steven, there's the Illusions with Matt, and then there's the Brain, Josh Freeze, Chinese Democracy. And all three eras are really unique. It's really unique. Like the Appetite song, and the Appetite songs don't sound like the Illusion songs. You know, they don't have the same feel. You know, so the toughest part, I mean, in a weird way, it's almost kind of like all of them, especially from the Sorum Adler era. And what I try to do as a groove drummer is try to sit somewhere in between both drummers. So you still have a punk rocky off the rails kind of feel, but then a nice, solid, dependable, you know, foundation like Sorum gives you. So it's kind of challenging. Now the Chinese Democracy stuff is more straight ahead. Like the challenges I have with that is playing it more like, you know, Brain played them, you know, even though I was able to add some stuff myself later on once I joined the band. The toughest part is finding the right group in between those 2 eras, the first 2 eras, I think. And I think especially with Slash and Duff in the band now, because it was their era, they wrote that stuff, it's their music. I'm able to find a nice spot where those guys are really comfortable playing the songs, but I'm also comfortable playing from my heart without being cerebral, having to think too much about the parts. So I would say somewhere in between those 2 drummers.
So if
Sounds so challenging.
If you take the band as it is today, and you've got key members of that original lineup, obviously permanent members now of the band, and if you took that band and you put that band into a studio, and I'm not asking any roundabout question, I'm just asking an overall question. If you took that band with 3, 4, well, I mean, Dizzy's been in the band.
Dizzy too. I was about to say Dizzy too. The whole Illusion era, he was there.
Dizzy's been there for 25 years or something. So if you take 4 long-standing members, you've been in the band now for, I mean, is it
12 years?
12 years, a long stint.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Frank.
Yeah. If you 14 years, say 2006, 14 years, so that's a long stint. So there's no real new members. So if you take that band now, put it in the studio with, and it's so good how you describe there is 3 really distinct eras of music. What if you worked on a new song, hypothetically, what would it sound like? Which era would it fall into? would it set like, because the last thing that Guns N' Roses put out was that Shadow of Your Love.
That's a good question.
And that was the Shadow of Your Love was from the Appetite singles. So what would it sound like with everything you've gone through, everything you've learned?
I don't. That's a good question. I would probably say that it would be leaning more towards a punk rocky feel, up tempo punk rockier. I think that's where the energy is today.
Yeah, great.
We were going out there and being really aggressive with the music, really aggressive. You know, I think it would have been more of the punk rockier earlier feel to it. I think it's kind of like everybody's come. I can't speak for the main guys, obviously, but it feels like maybe everything has come full circle.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Now we're like almost. I mean, we are with this collection of guys. We are a new band. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We are a new band. So it will be a newer sound, but I think it would be a more aggressive punk rocky vibe. That's my personal opinion. I could be completely wrong, but I think it would be more that, you know.
I love that question and that answer.
You know what I've proved today, Brandon, again, is that it's going to be very difficult for you to do these podcasts at all without me from now on.
Why say that? Because you have the balls to ask certain things, and because you guys are buddies, and I'm just meeting him for the first time. I'm not on a first date. I'm not going to ask you what underwear you're wearing. Like, I just want to, I want to be polite.
Good lesson.
What I reckon it is, I think you've got to ask questions with a level of respect. You don't want to push things over the line. You want to ask respect,
of course,
from people that you like. I mean, if I didn't like Frank, you might ask different questions, but I like him, so I always want to, you always want to be in on a good level with him, because I've got nothing better Joneses or La Famosa with.
You brought it up.
Chicken and Formosa was so good. Formosa.
You brought up Shadow of Your Love, which was, I mean, the version that came out is my favorite version. So was there, what went into the record? Was it just the straight recording from back in the day, or can you talk about the reason?
That's from what I understand is from a session from the original record. That's what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't touch that at all.
I mean, that's a great example how that song came back and is a mainstay in the set, and everybody loves playing it. And I think, and again, that's what I'm saying is that maybe, maybe we're all in that mindset, more aggressive kind of like feel to.
Well, it suits the band more. It suits that vibe suits the band. It's like a cut down version of it's sort of there's no bloatedness, there's no this. It just is what it is. I mean, there's been a great series on TV at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it. Or it's there. I don't know what platform it's on there. But here I just watched it. Iggy Pop just produced a great 4-episode series called Punk. Have you seen that?
Killer.
Oh, okay. It was on.
First 2 episodes are brilliant.
Unreal.
It was on Showtime, I think, or something, right? Or Epix. It was on Epix because I remember I interviewed Henry Rollins, who was featured about it.
Yeah. It's so good, and so that sort of hits in line with what you're doing, because I feel that switch, and I can tell you from a record company perspective, it does. I feel that swing. I know rock and roll is definitely coming back, but I feel that swing, that punkier rock. And we were talking about this. Actually, Kristen and I were talking about this earlier with another band. That it's almost like you get these whole lot of different bands in of that sort of genre, and it's like it's almost I want to start a record label and call it 16 Red, because you're putting money on all this roulette, on all this blackjack or whatever it is, on all these sort of different things, and going, yeah, that one's going to take off. But that genre, that punkier stripped down version of things is definitely coming back. Definitely.
Yeah, I think because it's authentic and people want to hear real music again. They're tired of the overproduced bullshit.
And what's interesting, you're right, the overproduced stuff, and that's something that I always thought I took a Chinese democracy approach to my career. Everything always had to be perfect. My 30-second breaks on classic rock radio, I couldn't fuck up, or things production, or even this podcast. I was worried about doing this podcast in quarantine because I'm not in a studio at iHeartRadio, but people care about if you're real. So with that, we found out a little bit about what you're doing in quarantine, but if I can ask, what's the band doing in quarantine? Are you because obviously you would be on the road, or is there? Can we expect?
But yeah, we would have been at rehearsals now for Europe. Now everybody's like hunkered down, taking care of themselves, and waiting to get back, basically. I can't really speak for the other guys, but I know everybody. We do group texts, and we all miss each other, and we can't wait to see each other. So, yeah.
How often do you guys group text? I mean, is it kind of like a funny group text where Slash is showing pictures of the dog filter?
Yeah. We talk about most of it is funny stuff, but we talk about everything. We talk about a lot of serious stuff too. And that's the way all of us are together, in that group text. But I don't know how to answer that. I would say that everybody's going through. There's no difference for us that what is going on for everyone else in the whole world. So no difference. So we're all in the same. All of us, for the first time in the history of humanity, we're in the same boat. So
I know, and that's in a weird way because Mark, you're talking about silver linings. That's a weird silver lining where I always jokingly said I would connect people, try to create world peace through this podcast. Everyone has a Guns N' Roses. Everyone likes them to some degree. But now we're all connected in this pandemic. It's just out of control because we're all people. So it's the organicness that comes out in the music that you play with Guns N' Roses and with your other bands that shines through. And that's that's what I like talking. That's what my first question to you was like, how are you doing? Because we're all in this together. I mean, no matter where you are in the world, whether you're in LA or Sydney or you're in Queens, we're all in the same place. So is there anything that we can expect? Is it just kind of like a wait and see? I hate asking that from all my guests. What's in the future? Like or you know what? Let me ask this.
I know that Mark has some great ideas. Mark and Kristen have great ideas for Pisser. So hopefully we'll be hearing a lot of Pisser music.
We're working on a third single now. So we're putting together. You can't do videos at the moment, but we're working out a few things. So there'll definitely be some new music from Pisser. Maybe 1 or 2 new singles. Maybe something else between now and the end of the year. We're gonna take full advantage of Frank being off the road to make and Rob and Eric and make sure that they're out there pushing the band because it's perfect. So there's definitely going to be a lot of music from Pisser coming up.
Yeah. Well, let me ask, because I've asked this. We discussed this at length, especially in an episode where it was just Mark, Kristen, and I about what bands and artists could do during this downtime. Is that something that, because you're pretty active on Instagram? Is it could you see yourself zooming with whether it be GNR bandmates or bandmates from Pisser and putting on these shows, or do you want to
see myself doing it? Absolutely. The opportunity hasn't shown up for us yet, but
okay.
I see myself doing it? Of course, I'm not opposed to it. Of course not.
Okay, because I just think it's fun, whether it's stuff on TV like Dave Matthews has done a bunch of stuff, or just things that are live on the internet. Goldfinger, I think, performs I think it's Gold. I forget the name of the punk band right now. It escapes me. But just like always, is very well produced, but Zoom concerts. So it's, it gives us something to do while we can't.
Yeah, you never know. You never
live.
Know. That'd be surprises.
Right. Yeah, no, that's kind of the name of the game.
Got a little mystery somewhere.
Well, Frank, this is awesome. I feel like I've kept you longer than I probably should have, but this was.
Thank you for having me on. That was very sweet. It's nice to meet you, and I'll see you back in New York, yo. And by the way, Mitchell Robinson is a keeper. They get rid of everybody else. They got to keep Mitchell Robinson.
Okay. Oh yeah, because you set off. We should just bring it up because I'm not a big basketball fan nowadays. But my heart is still broken for Patrick Ewing. So have you been watching the?
Hell no.
No, you haven't been watching it? You don't want to relive it.
You're asking me about watching a show about only MJ and every other highlight is him dunking on a Nick? You're out of your hell no. I might be the only person in America not watching it, but no way am I. No way. You don't understand it. Well, you're actually younger than. It's a source. MJ hurts me. It hurts.
You'll understand this, Frank. I remember one of my early sports memories was crying when Charles Smith could not make that layup. So yes,
Okay, we are definitely this is winding down big time. Okay, this is
no, I know
it hurt. Like you know how you have great childhood memories. Those are my bad childhood memories. You understand that?
I know. But there's a lot of small part of you that remembers when the Knicks were at least good. We couldn't make it past Jordan for most, but at least they were good. They were a respectable franchise in the 90s. Now it's like
we're all just gonna have to bury our heads now in the sand.
Where'd you grow up, Kristen? Where'd you grow up?
I'm on Long Island. Yeah. So I mean,
You're
I have season tickets to the
on Long
Knicks.
Island. Yeah. Oh wow.
I grew up. I had season tickets to the Knicks, the Mets. Sorry, I know you're a Yankees fan, but I'm a Mets fan.
Yankees as well. Yankees as well. I know because then Kristen said she's a Ranger fan and I'm a diehard Islander fan who are also terrible. Well, they're okay, betterish now.
No, they're the JV team. Sorry.
So growing up, one of my father's brothers was a huge baseball player in the Pan American League, Cuban League, you know, and so the winner of that league will always play the winner of the World Series, and a lot of the times the Cubans will play the Yankees. So my father grew up hating the Yankees. So when he moved to New York, he had I think the Giants were still there when he went. Okay. But then after they left, he became a Mets fan. So I went to a lot of Mets games growing up. Lee Mazzilli and them. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good memories going to Old Shea Stadium and eating a hot dog that wasn't $19. No.
Well, and when the Mets sucked, you were able to go to a game for like $3. You know?
The good old days.
Like the Knicks too. When the Knicks used to suck in the 80s, you would buy the ticket, you would buy the cheapest ticket, and then you could just walk all the way down. So in the fourth quarter, you could watch the whole fourth quarter.
No one would be there, and you sit there with your fake foam finger on and fucking root.
My dad went to the last game at the old Madison Square Garden, and I don't know where it is now, but he ripped off a piece of the chair because they were ripping everything off.
Yeah.
So somewhere in my house, there's a piece of the old Madison Square Garden.
That's pretty
cool. I was brought up, man. I was brought up to be a big Knicks fan. And
you know that I have no fucking idea what any of you
We could talk about highlight or rugby.
All I know, I'm not a big sports guy. I'm a rock and roll guy, as you know. But all I know is this: is that last dance thing on Bulls that's out. There's a huge controversy because Luke Longley, who was the Aussie guy that was in the whole thing, he doesn't feature in it at all. They've like to cut him out of history.
And he was a Knick for a cup of coffee. Luke Longley.
Yes, he was.
For a cup of coffee.
Yes, he was. See, Frank, this is what we're doing though. We're all quarantined, and I'm reduced to watching the Bulls beat the Knicks again because I can't see Guns N' Roses. Well, I know it hasn't been announced yet. You guys just announced, and it sucks that the European tour has been postponed. Yeah. Right now, I do have tickets for July to see you in New Jersey. I'm hoping to see because I haven't seen the Smashing Pumpkins play yet. So yeah, I'll cross my fingers.
Is that the lineup? Smashing Pumpkins and Guns N' Roses.
A couple of East Coast gigs.
Oh, if I can fly, which I don't reckon I'll be able to fly out of here for a year. But if I can fly, I'm with you there, Frank.
Right. Awesome.
Well, I hope to see you sooner rather than later, whether it's in MetLife Stadium or Arlene's Grocery, which one comes first. And the thing that I tabled before, it would be awesome if you want to have 5 or 6 squares on this and bring Brain and other drummers. I mean, I would love it. My audience would love it, and I just hope you had a good time today or tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
I'll see you guys later. Are we all signing off?
Yeah, we're all going. We're going. I'll stop the recording in a minute, but thank you so much, man.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you, Frank,
Thanks,
so much.